Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Listen, fans need to talk Spence versus Crawford into existence. I'm saying that now. I'm going to say it again. Because at this point, that's the only way we're going to get that fight, man. Now, for those of you who aren't really, maybe I don't have your attention, let me go ahead and get your attention real quick because I don't think you guys are really paying attention. I have your attention now? You paying attention? Now, hopefully I got your attention. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, look, I told myself I wasn't going to talk about this anymore. Like, I'm so tired of the back and forth, the fans pointing their fingers at each other, but it's at a point to where this fight is getting further and further away. I'm telling you. I've been on several different platforms listening to what people have to say, and I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people who are talking about Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, they have blinders on. They keep talking about the goddamn negotiations that fell apart, a few days from now, be last year. Y'all still talking about that bullshit that didn't happen with Crawford and Spence and Crawford taking the BLK Prime fight with Evander Cien. People still saying Spence and those guys didn't treat Crawford with respect. People saying Crawford is inexperienced in negotiation. He wanted his cake and eat it too. Then you got the neutral party saying Crawford wanted to fight Spence, but he also wanted to make that quick $10 million. However, he wasn't transparent, didn't let them know what his plans were. He should have just said, look, contingent on me beating this guy Evander Cien, I get that quick $10 million, we can continue where we left off, right? And then there's some people saying Crawford doesn't owe anyone an explanation. And I don't think anyone's wrong. Now, what I will say is I don't agree with Bud going and taking the Evander Cien fight instead of waiting another couple months, because from what I understand, they were trying to stage that fight in February. But I understand Bud Crawford taking that $10 million. You see, I don't have to agree with you if I can understand you. But when I can't understand you, when I can't agree with you and can't understand you, that's when you hit a stalemate. That's when there's a sticking point. That's when the confrontation becomes destructive. Because right now, it's kind of a confrontation going on between the Bud fans, the Spence fans, Bud Crawford, Errol Spence, Bud team, the Spence team. But confrontation isn't bad if it turns to be constructive. But it's becoming destructive. And I'm going to tell you why this concerns me. It doesn't concern me because of what the hell Spence is saying, Spence team is saying, Spence fans are saying. It doesn't concern me because what Bud is saying, Bud's team is saying, the Bud fans are saying. I'm going to tell you why it concerns me. You see this little image I have on the screen with that WBC, WBO, WBA, and IBF? That's why it concerns me. If you look at how these guys are moving, they're operating independent of each other because they're their own entities. These sanctioning bodies have their own rules. These sanctioning bodies are all about themselves. They're all about getting whatever percent of the fight purse that comes out of the champions and the challengers purses on the night they fight. They want their money. So when you have a guy like Crawford saying his legacy is cemented, he doesn't really need Spence. He's cool if it doesn't happen. It'll just be a fight that just didn't happen. That's crazy to me to say that when these sanctioning bodies, man, they got the ears perked up. They're listening. You almost telling them, look, I don't care about this damn belt. I'm going to just come out here and fight whoever, make my money, and that's it. And then at the same time, you have Errol Spence kind of saying the same thing. If the Crawford fight don't happen, whatever, I'll move up to 154. I've got options. He ain't really worried about it yet. But the one thing Spence does say, and Crawford he says it as well. They both say they want to fight. But they're not showing, in my opinion, the passion for it. And that's because they're both at a point in their careers where they feel they shouldn't have to beg for a fight. But it's not like these guys are chasing after Thurman. You guys are trying to fight for the undisputed distinction. Crawford and Spence should be making noise, but because they're not, look at what's going on with these sanctioning bodies. Now, Mauricio Suleiman, right? I just did a video on this, but I'm going to kind of catch you guys up. There have been all these talks about cutting down on challengers, on champions, having to face mandatory after mandatory after mandatory. All these talks on having elite fighters in the weight divisions facing stiff competition and losing. And then the winner of that fight goes on in another eliminator bout and losing because they take a concentric few and they're forcing them to fight hard fights against elite competition. As a result, they're taking losses on their records. So when you get that C, B level fighter who's just sitting back in the cut, he's not fighting or he's not fighting high threat fights. So his record either stays intact or he continues to get wins. Now he starts to rise up the rankings when realistically he's the B level fighter, the C level fighter, but those A level fighters, those elite guys are over here fighting, busting their ass, taking losses. But because they take those losses, the C or B level fighter who's playing it safe, he gets put in a position to be the number one ranked or get a shot at the title. And that's not right. And that's not fair. And that is exactly what the sanctioning bodies are doing. Now we talk about, well, why do you say that? Who's at welterweight right now? Who's the elite at welterweight? Who's the elite at welterweight right now? Okay, we all agree, Spence and Crawford, right? Set them aside. We know they're the top dogs. It is what it is. Those two, 4 belts, 3 with Spence, 1 with Crawford. But when you set them aside, who else would you consider elite? Stanley Unis, right? Ortiz, right? Then you got Ennis, and whether you like it or not, you got Thurman. Those guys are really the top dogs. What are they doing right now? They're forcing Stanley Unis and Ortiz to fight. One of them are going to take a loss. What do you think happens to the loser? What I just said. Elite fighters banging against each other. Someone has to lose. They take a loss. They fall down the rankings. I'm going to come back to that. Then you look at Boots Ennis. He's about to fight a number 4 ranked guy. And I believe it's IBF, right? Boots should beat him. But if Boots was to lose to this guy, which I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'm talking to you. Boots Ennis passes the eye test. But we haven't seen Boots Ennis get hurt. We haven't seen him deal with adversity. I believe Boots Ennis is the real deal. I want to make sure you hear that because a lot of you guys out there who watch these videos, y'all hear what you want to hear. And then you come and you spew crap in the comment sections. It's like the seagull. Fly around, squawk about, drop some shit off, and then fly back out of there. So I want to make sure I say this. I think Boots is the real deal. He passes the eye test, but we got to see what he does when the real deal starts and he gets hurt. What is he going to do? Is he going to do like Victor Ortiz when he fought Maidana? And Maidana put that heat on him? Because Ortiz was supposed to be the next big thing. He passed the eye test. But he got that goddamn Argentinian heat put on him, didn't he? And what did he say at the end of the fight? I don't think I need to be getting beat up like this. The man proved he wasn't cut from champion quality cloth. He was a snow cone. Now, could Virgil Ortiz fight? Yes. But there was something went wrong up here when he started getting that Argentinian heat put on him. And then you fast forward the rest of his career and you kind of see what happened. If it doesn't go his way, shit unravels. So with Boots Ennis, what I'm saying is, at least where Virgil Ortiz was, Victor Ortiz was at that point, Boots Ennis is there. Pass the eye test. It's time for real competition. I don't know much about the Ukrainian. He's ranked number 4. Should be solid. I don't know. But we didn't know much about Marcos McDonough until he got in there with Victor Ortiz. And then we learned real quick what the hell Marcos McDonough was about. Now, I'm going to say this again. I think Boots Ennis is the real deal, but we have to see what happens when the real deal starts. And I am willing to say I believe he'll pass with flying colors. But with Boots Ennis, after he beats this guy, this is what sucks about it, right? If he was to lose, Boots Ennis falls off the map. So you have elite fighters fighting elite fighters, but they're falling down in the rankings when they take a loss. Now, the guys who win should go on. But then you have the guys who are sitting there just breezing, who don't have to fight those fights. Alexis Rocha, Blair Cobb, Conor Benn doesn't even matter. Okay? They're just sitting back chilling. And then because these guys lose, or they take these interim title bouts in different organizations, right? So if they were ranked somewhere in the WBO, now they decide to take an interim title in the IBF or the WBC or WBA, right? We're just talking in general. They fall out of the WBO, and the guys below them bubble up. And that's a foul. So when you look at what's going on here, that could definitely happen, where we see the B and C level guys get opportunities. Now, what really makes all of this interesting is we keep talking about Crawford and Spence, and Crawford getting through his mandatory. Look, Crawford has a mandatory when he returns, whether it's April, May, or June. Spence's mandatory is Thurman. Spence has to fight Thurman. It is what it is. Okay? They're not going to let Spence and Crawford, these sanctioning bodies, decide to have an undisputed bout. That's just not going to happen. With everything that just transpired and with everything these sanctioning bodies are doing, they're not working together. They're looking out for self. But what I see happening here, and this is what sucks, it's horrible. Horrible what's about to happen. Crawford, he's going to be sitting there. He's going to have to fight somebody. Spence has to fight Thurman. And then now Boots Ennis is the mandatory to Spence. He has 120 days. Spence has 120 days if he gets past Thurman to fight Boots Ennis. Now, that sucks, right? So he goes and fights Thurman. Some people say it's going to be an easy fight. I don't think so. But let's say Spence beats Thurman the way we feel he should because of Thurman's inactivity, and Spence is just a special fighter. Now he has to come within 120 days and fight Boots Ennis. Now, check this out. The WBA, the winner between Stanley Eunice and Ortiz, they're the mandatory to Spence. The WBA and the WBC don't get along. The WBA, they do what they want. Look what they did to Josh Taylor. They forced the mandatory at the same time where the WBC was forcing the mandatory. The WBA went to purse bid knowing Josh Taylor couldn't possibly defend his titles against two different mandatories at the same time. And then, as a result, they stripped him so the WBA could have that belt put out there for guys to fight for it so they can make money. And when you look at what's going on with Errol Spence, I honestly feel he's going to, let's say he gets past Thurman. I truly feel Spence is going to be there, lined up to fight Boots Ennis, and then the WBA is going to push their mandatory on him at the same time. So now you got, let's just say Stanley Eunice wins against Ortiz. We don't know that, but let's just say, okay, to simplify things. So now you got Spence having to fight Ennis and come to an agreement, at the same time being forced to fight and come to an agreement and fight Stanley Unis. That's madness. And then what's going to happen? Spencer's going to have to lose one of those belts. And that's not fair. And this is why you can see that there's some frustration that's developing with Errol Spence. Talking about, listen, when you get a guy like Spence and a guy like Crawford talking about moving up. Now they got, what's it called, champion in recess, where they can leave their belts, bubble up a division, become the mandatory to the big dog in the division right above them, and automatically go into a title shot, win or lose, and they come back down. Okay? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you just saw Amanda Serrano do it against Katie Taylor. Yeah, she went up, challenged, lost, comes back down. She's still a champion in a different weight class. Same thing here. But I put it to you this way. If I'm a hiring authority for a position, right? And I want to hire you for a job, right? And although you're the most qualified, and I really want to put you out there and bring you on the team, but you keep talking about how you don't really care if you get the job or not. I don't know. If it happened, it happened. I don't know. I mean, it is whatever. I got options. I'm the hiring authority. I'm the sanctioning bodies. I'm the guys who's supposed to sit here and agree to let you guys skip over these mandatories and go right into an undisputed fight. But you guys are talking like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm the hiring authority. I'm the sanctioning body. But that's what you're going to tell me? That you don't care if you fight for undisputed or not? Okay. Well, then I'm going to do something else. Instead of taking you, the one I want, and I'm willing to invest this big money in and put you out there, I'm going to go out here, man, and get somebody else and pay them less money. And make you fight a mandatory now. That's what I'm going to do. See, these hiring authorities, these sanctioning bodies, if Spence and Crawford will really at each other, like, we want the fight, let's make the fight, we don't want anyone else, this is who we want, but not being so passive. If the fans were more out here collectively saying, make the fight, like, there has to be demand coming from all avenues. Promoters, managers, advisors, right? The fighters, the damn cut man, everyone, the fans. Like, it has, that kind of demand is what needs to happen right now. Because the fact that these guys are talking nonchalantly about whether the fight happens or not, they don't care, they'll move up, that is problematic. Don't expect these sanctioning bodies to get behind them. And pay attention to these mandatories that are happening. If you look, since Spence and Crawford, since that deal fell apart, do you think only Spence and his team was pissed off? Do you think only Crawford and his team were pissed off? Those guys don't matter. You know who was really pissed off about all that time wasted and belts not getting defended and money opportunities to make money was missed? Those sanctioning bodies, the key decision makers, they run shit. But a lot of their control has been taken out of their hands, where you see different promoting factions looking out for their best interest. And that's why, especially in the last few years, you're not seeing the best fight the best, because everyone wants to protect their fighters and protect their investment. But if the sanctioning bodies took control, kind of like Dana White in the UFC, and said, this is who's going to fight who. Best fight the best. Promoters, managers, advisors, you don't have no damn say. We control how the fights are made. And see, that's how it should be in boxing, but it's not, and I don't know if it ever will be. But if it was that way, and it was being done correctly, there would be no back and forth. There would be no boxing content creator beef. There would be no Errol Spence fans versus Terrence Crawford fans finger pointing and being irate and disrespecting each other and threatening each other in the comment sections. I mean, come on, cornball type behavior. But that's not what we have. So in order to get this fight pushed across the table, there needs to be a demand from the fans. Not the finger pointing. It needs to be more collectively saying, we want the fight. But people will continue dwelling in the past and miss out on future opportunities because everyone wants to be right. Everyone wants to blame. Most want to blame Crawford. Then you got those who want to blame Spence. Shit, you got people blaming Kinahan. It's complete madness right now. And these sanctioning bodies just sitting back looking and just waiting for an opportunity to shake loose those belts from these guys. And I'm going to tell you this right now. With Crawford, he's going to have to fight somebody. You see, everything right now is falling on Spence. You don't think Spence feels that damn pressure? Spence has to fight Thurman. After Thurman, Spence has to fight Ennis. Even if something happens when Ennis gets injured or whatever, right? The WBA is right there. Spence has to fight either Ortiz or Stan Eunice. That's what Spence has to wake up and deal with. Thurman, Ennis, either Stan Eunice or Virgil Ortiz. The killers. What does Crawford have to wake up and worry about? Now, because all the killers are mandatory to Spence. So Crawford can find himself in a position where he's forced to fight a mandatory that he doesn't want to fight. And no one's going to cut him any slack because they're going to say he's ducking. He's a quack. He's scared to fight. Because Crawford, if you look, right, ain't nobody talking about his mandatory. We just know he has one. But when the dust settles and Stan Eunice, Ortiz, Ennis, Thurman, and all of them are over there fighting for belts that Errol Spence has as a mandatory or trying to become in position for a mandatory, none of the killers are left for Crawford to fight. So what's left? Conor Benn? I don't know. Alexis Rocha? That's what it looks like. But there are rumors that there's some big-time talks for Crawford to fight Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor leaving his belts, bubbling up to fight Crawford. And then, if he loses, he just comes back down. That's the thing I was talking about, the champion in recess. I believe that's what it's called. So there are a lot of rumors out there about what's going on. And at the same time, the next thing that makes it frustrating, which is a good thing. This is one thing that's a good thing. Crawford's his own man now. It don't matter if you agree with how he's moving. Crawford can sleep good at night because he doesn't have to answer to no one. As a result, he's making some decisions that some people don't agree with, but he's making his own decisions. It's not Bob Arum telling him what to do. It's not Al Heyman telling him what to do. It's not Eddie Hearn telling him what to do. It's not Lou DiBella telling him what to do. It's not Leonard Ellerby. Crawford's doing what he wants. Gervonta Davis is doing it now. So I honestly feel that it's a good thing for Terrence Crawford to be his own man, but at the same time, if Crawford feels like someone's putting pressure on him and something he doesn't like, Crawford doesn't have to wilt to that. He doesn't have to accept that no more. So if he feels like that's what's going on with trying to put a fight together with Spence, Crawford is going to go elsewhere. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that, but I understand. Now, a lot of people out there are going to say, it doesn't matter what I say in this interview. If you like Spence, you're going to say positive things and horrible things about Crawford. If you like Crawford, you're going to say positive things about Crawford and horrible things about Spence. But to me, what we should be saying isn't that Spence sucks, Spence is a drunk, Spence shouldn't be driving cars, Crawford's a duck, Crawford's a coward, that shit is negative, man. Don't get me wrong, I got a good sense of humor. But it's out of control, man. Why would I, as a sanctioning body, want to push an undisputed distinction when the fans are talking like there's not, the interest is gone now? Yo, we need to talk that shit into existence. And right now, I don't think we as fans are doing our due diligence to ensure this fight launches off next year. Now, it won't be the first half of the year. It could be after. But it has to be the demand. We gotta place that demand. But I'm telling you right now, it doesn't how much of a demand we place. If the WBC and the WBA and the IBF can't get on the same sheet of music, you're gonna see Errol Spence having to face mandatory after mandatory. You see, and that's what sucks. Because there has to be an agreement by the sanctioning bodies to allow for a voluntary defense, or to allow their mandatory, who's next in line, to just take some step aside money, or to allow a voluntary defense. And right now, how many times has Errol Spence defended those belts? Okay, since Yugas. Okay, that's a question. How many times since Yugas has Errol Spence defended those belts? Now he's not returning until close to the middle of next year. That's no bueno. Now, some things beyond his control, but at the end of the day, sanctioning bodies, they're not seeing that money machine at work. That's a problem for them. So we'll sit back, we'll keep a thumb on this, and we'll come back in a few months to give it a pulse check and kind of see what's going on, if the life has been kind of breathed back into the Spence and Crawford fight. But as of right now, I think that shit is on life support. And I think it's for us, the fans, to recognize that, instead of taking our hands and getting to the keyboards and say such horrible things about the fight that we don't like, we should be taking our hands and trying to find a way, man, to resuscitate this shit. Because I'm telling you, it's getting further and further away. And it's for these fighters to stop talking so nonchalantly, like they don't need Crawford. I don't need Spence. Spence, I don't need Crawford. Crawford, I have a legacy. Yeah, I want the Spence fight, but, you know, it is what it is. If it don't happen, it don't happen. Spence, I got options. I want to fight Crawford, but I got options. Like, it shouldn't be like that. It should be like, I want to fight Crawford, point blank, period. This is bullshit. F that. I want to fight him. Mauricio Suleiman, whoever's over at the IBF, who's ever at the WBO, who's ever at the WBA, don't push mandatories on us. You guys come together and agree. Allow us to get in the ring and have this undisputed fight. That's what the two of them should be saying. They should be attacking those sanctioning bodies, not each other. It ain't Al Heyman's fault. And whoever the hell Crawford is with, BLK Prime, Paulo Malignaggi, and maybe Antonio Tarver's behind all this. I don't know what the hell's going on. But that's what these two, in my opinion, need to do. They both, it's almost like trying to get FEMA involved for a humanitarian effort. They need to get up on the TV in an interview together, kumbaya, and pleading to the sanctioning bodies to allow their fight to happen. And I'm telling you, if they took that position, if that's how the two of them can posture together, coupled, I think we could see them guys fighting before the WBC and Thurman. Before Keith Thurman for the WBC and mandatory with Thurman. For Spence and Thurman. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I truly believe that. And for those of you saying, nah, it's not going to happen, man, this shit is corrupt. Knock it off. Hold your horses. Quit talking like this is going to happen under normal protocol. Bullshit. It's corrupt, man. Look at Suleiman. Suleiman comes doing, for years and years. We should have one champion in every division. There should be an undisputed distinction every division. We shouldn't have guys fighting mandatory after mandatory. That's his position. That's what it's always been. But then it's convenient for him to push Caleb Smith as a WBC mandatory at the winner of Berdabiev and Yardy, so that he can get a chance to have his guy possibly win that belt to go on, win those 3 belts to go on and fight Bivol for the undisputed distinction. There's no way in the world Caleb Smith should be out here fighting the winner of Yardy and Berdabiev. When Bivol, Berdabiev, and Yardy, all of them are saying the winner of Bertabiev and Bivol and Yardy, they want to fight Bivol. Bivol wants to fight them for the undisputed. But the WBC is blocking it. So if the WBC's interest is something different for making Spence and Crawford, don't expect to see them come to an agreement with anyone else when they have a mandatory that they can insert in there to possibly upset the apple cart. And I personally don't think the WBC likes Terrence Crawford. I'm just being honest with you. I listen to when they talk. You know, and I can't blame Crawford for being pissed off at Bob Arum. Because Bob Arum didn't help Crawford. You know, it didn't help him. We get it. Pay-per-view sales, this and that. Crawford isn't a guy who likes to say a lot. And that's Crawford even said that, you know. He's not real vocal. He'd rather just get in the ring and fight. But, you know, in boxing, you got to self-promote. There's things you got to do to help yourself. So some of that's come back to bite him. But the fact that Bob Arum, how he lost money, he doesn't care if Crawford wants to leave. And, you know, it's a waste of time and this and that. Eddie Hearn, he's a bandwagonist. He jumped on. Crawford's a great fighter, but I wouldn't promote him. It's a waste. We couldn't make any money. The kind of money he wants, we can't pay him. Yeah, they just riddled Crawford's chances of, to me, reaching his full potential when it comes to that area of marketability. Because they've already basically said it's impossible for him to be a box office draw and a successful pay-per-view star. That's what they basically said. So we talk about talking things into existence. I mean, the opposite can happen when people start opening their mouths. But at the end of the day, I think we should build champions, not break them down. I really do hope they can get this fight going, but I'm telling you, I don't feel it's going to happen because there needs to be a demand in the system. We need to place a demand in the system. And for those of you who are saying people are screaming for it, no, we're not. People are not screaming for that Crawford fight, Crawford and Spence fight. No, they're not. People are just screaming. But no one's screaming for Spence and Crawford. They're just screaming about who's to blame for shit not happening. And those sanctioning bodies are paying attention. Look at the movements. Look at the landscape. Look at the fights that are being made. Look at all the weight being put on Errol Spence's shoulders right now. This man has some serious-ass mandatories, and his mandatories are killers. Crawford right now doesn't have that. But at the end of the day, we don't know who Crawford's going to end up fighting. But I will tell you all, don't blame Crawford if he ends up fighting Alexis Rocha or Blair Cobb in his next fight. I'm telling y'all right now. Get out there and read. Look at this shit that Suleiman's saying. Understand what's going on in these different sanctioning bodies. It ain't Errol Spence making these decisions. You think Errol Spence want to be in a position to where he may have to, after Keith Thurman, fight Boots Ennis and then fight damn Stanley Unis or Virgil Ortiz? He don't want to go into that. Although him and Crawford aren't afraid of anybody, but who the hell want to go back to back into those kind of fights? And then what I would like to see is I would like to see that wild card thrown into all this, and to see Crawford have to fight Butev instead of fighting his damn Alexis Rocha or Blair Cobb. Butev is durable. Now, we talk about Crawford cherry picking, right? I don't think he's cherry picked anyone, but since a lot of people think that, right? If Crawford gets in the ring with Butev is not a Vanessian. But if Crawford can do to Butev what he did to a Vanessian, nobody should be talking shit about Crawford no more. And for Errol Spence, if he gets in there and shuts Keith Thurman down, I think Errol Spence deserves credit for that. Some people don't. But if he gets in there and fights Boots Ennis, and he breaks him down and does to him what we've seen him do to other opponents, nobody should be saying nothing bad about Errol Spence no more. But I still think Spence and Crawford they're still awaiting those kind of legacy-defining fights. And I'm talking about outside of them fighting each other. And I think a guy like Butev could do that for Crawford. And I think a guy like Boots Ennis can do, Stanley Unis, Ortiz, could do that for Spence. Keith Thurman definitely is a good feather in the cap. I would have liked to see Keith Thurman fight Crawford, because that's a big name, and Crawford can really use that. But with his inactivity, Spence nor Crawford would get the type of credit they deserve just because of the inactivity level of Keith Thurman. But that being said, y'all keep cool. Let's try to talk this into existence. Like and subscribe. Donate to the channel. And as always, man, y'all be cool in the breeze.